Thank you for joining us. In this interview, we are sitting with Minister within the Ministry of Community, Dawn Hastings Williams. We're speaking to her on some of our successes, challenges since assuming office. Let's jump right in.
Thank you for this opportunity, whereby I can be able to tell the nation what are some of my successes, challenges, and what are some of my projections for 2016. I must say that the 7 months was a very challenging one for me. I say challenging because to build cohesive, empowered, and sustainable communities throughout Guyana is not an easy one. And so, as a minister within the ministry responsible for regional development, we've had some challenges. For example, within the regions, throughout the regions, we have a shortage of technical persons. So even though we had budgeted to implement some projects within the regions, we didn't have the technical persons on the ground. For example, we have projects as way out in riverine areas, as far communities, far-flung communities, and we do not have clerks of works, to supervise, to see that money spent are really to the value of the money spent are really to benefit the people. So those are some of the challenges we had. Another challenge we had is capacity building for the regional development councillors, the RDCs, the regional democratic councillors, and even our NDCs in our local democratic organs. So those were some of the challenges that we had. However, we've also had some successes. For example, we were able to do a lot of outreaches throughout the hinterland regions, especially because as one of my responsibility is to look at the hinterland regions, being a person coming out from the hinterland. And so I've made some visits. The ministry was able to make outreach visits to a lot of communities like Karasabai, Letem, and its surrounding environments, Shelton, throughout the 7 months. We also made visits to Region 1 communities, Muruka sub-region. We went to Baramita in collaboration with the Indigenous Peoples Ministry and Social Protection. We made visits to Mabruma, and my main focus there in visiting Mabruma was to inform the people, to have consultations with them of Mabruma becoming a town. As you may have heard, the president emphasizing on bridging the gap between the hinterland and the coastland. My main focus was on to go to these regions, to meet with the persons, to consult with them, and to inform them about how we can go forward. And another success, or the main focus I had as a minister within responsible for regional development, was that we were tasked to come up with a plan of action for regional development. Not the ministry. The ministry was not tasked to do that. We devolved that responsibility to the RDCs in the 10 administrative regions. And so we began to have consultations. We had institutional strengthening, where on October the 10th at the Arthur John Conventional Center, we invited all the regional chairmen, the REOs, the councillors, to have a consultative meeting with them, whereby we informed them and we told them that you need to come up with a plan of action for each region, and that they need to take control and to govern their communities throughout in the 10 administrative regions. So we began in October, and we continued piloting Region 10 as the pilot region, and we also had meeting with non-governmental organizations, with UNICEF and stakeholders, private sectors, where officers from the ministry were in there at Linden. And I'm happy to say that we did come up with a plan, which is in its final draft, which was produced in December. And with that plan, it has 5 thematic areas. Social services provision. These are the key areas that that were planned under this action. You have the social service provision, which includes social protection, youth development, health, education, and other social services. The plan had to include that. And then we also have the other area of economic diversity. The plans included economic diversity, where they will look at electricity. The residents of Region 10 would want to benefit from, if it's a mini hydro, for example, they identify the Tiger Falls, and tourism, agriculture, and a small micro enterprise businesses. Because what we're looking for is that we must have local economic development in each of these regions. And as a result, they must be able to garner their revenues from the resources that they have within the regions. And where they do not have, then the central government will step in to assist, whatever. And we also have like environmental sustainability included into the plan of action, regional administration, that includes the monitoring and evaluation of whatever project is being implemented in the region.
Coming from an interland location yourself, how would you say this plan is critical to those region development?
It is very critical because each regions will vary in their needs. And so even though Region 10 has been piloted as a region, the other regions will now follow, not exactly the same way, but they will identify their needs. Because what we did needs assessment. There were plans, that were laid before in the regions. So we asked them to go through those plans and meet with the people. And so the final product, the final action plan for the region would be something that everybody in that region almost would buy into and would accept as their very own.
What sort of receptions are we getting in terms of these plans at the interland region, in terms of the RDCs? Are they receptive to the idea?
Well, of course, the RDCs were very receptive because when this was brought into them, they bought the idea, and with the help of the personnel from the ministry, they began to work. And also with the help of the Canadian agency, IDA, they were able to get on board as quickly as they can and develop these action plans. And so we see it very critical. So from this 5-year action plan, it's for 5 years. So we hope by 2020 we would be able to have strong regions, strong communities, strong regions, and so we'll have a strong country. So that is the way we
You talk about visiting some of the interland communities and meeting with the residents. What are some of the salient issues that came out of some of these engagements?
Okay, I'm happy that you brought up that. We were there mainly to get first-hand information about their communities, their living conditions, and we saw for ourselves. We listened to the voice of the people, and we realized, being there on the ground, we saw that there were a lot of services not being offered to the people in terms of health, education, public infrastructure, and even agriculture. And so the ministry now is in the process of coming up with a plan for the 2016 to, how could we resolve these issues. And we have started it during this year, whereby we began to renovate and to acquire some basic things for living quarters for our nurses, because that's where most of the troubling issues, when we went about the complaints that we heard from our workers, our nurses, our teachers, our doctors, those were some of their complaints and issues. And so we started in 2015 when we had our consultation for the 2015 budget. We had asked the regional councillors, the REOs, to consult with the people. We advised them not to sit in their office and just to come about with a yearly budget. They have to go out. And so we went there to confirm, to see if that was actually done, to go on the ground. So they had to consult with these persons, the workers, the people in the region, in the communities, to come up with the 2015 budget. And so we did a lot of repairing. We did a lot of repairing to schools, extension to schools. For example, if I can give you, we now have a doctor's quarter in Baimadai where there was never any in Region 7. So doctors now can be placed there. And we also did some extensions to teachers' quarters at Waramadang, that's in Region 7. So teachers can be better accommodated.
This was done under the region's budget for
Yes,
2015.
2015, yes. This is
Having had the consultation and so forth.
Yes, that's what we did. And then we also, the ministry also has what you call the car-led and the sled projects, which we have begun, but mostly based on, I said, local economic development. So they have these little micro businesses, which we recognize that would bring job opportunities, create job opportunities for young people where they can be involved. And throughout the Caribbean, if you look at it, that's something that has been done throughout the other Caribbean countries, and it's most likely it do not collapse. These small micro management business entrepreneurship. You give them some funds to begin, and most of them are being owned by women and groups. So we have started, we embarked that project throughout the regions, like in Regions 2. Carlet now has a project being done in Region 2 at Mainstay, which is one of the Amerindian communities. So
what other communities have benefited from the car-led program this year?
We have in Regions 2, we have in Regions 4, 5, and 6. So that's
okay. You talked about a lot of these regions lacking the technical capacity to execute a lot of the projects that are catered for in the budget. Can you tell us about what the ministry is doing in terms of remedying this problem?
Okay, the ministry is now embarking in 2016. This 2016, we will continue to do capacity building, institutional strengthening. We have sent 2 officers from the ministry to Japan to study, especially in the solid waste disposal area, because that's a problem throughout the regions. It's not only a coastal problem. So we have them. They will now have workshops with the regional personnel within the regions, and to see how best they can manage this solid waste and even water, potable water. We also have a project whereby we have what we call treatment of water. If many of us have never known, we have never known that we were being supplied water from Linden. There is a watershed in Linden that supplies the whole of coastal coming down here. So we also look into those, and we will continue, as I said, to do institutional strengthening, whereby we will continue to work with our RDCs, our municipalities, and because of that, the ministry's core responsibility was to bring local democracy to the people, because we believe that democracy lies and resides in the people themselves, and that is why we are going to implement local government elections early this year, around March 18th.
How are we preparing the Interland region for these elections? How are we working with them?
Okay, we have been, as I said, we have been visiting. We went to consult, so they're now aware that Letem is becoming a town. That's in Region 9. Bartica in Region 7. Mabaruma in Region 1. We put a little hole in Region 8. That's Madia. Now it's easier for us at Bartica because they had NDCs, and also Letem they had an NDC, but in Madia it was RDC strictly. So the people there, they have been the ministry along with elections commissions have been working to educate the residents. They now have an opportunity to choose the leaders of their choice, and persons who they not only they think, but who they have confidence in that they can lead and govern their municipalities or their NDCs.
So let me understand. Four towns were scheduled to become, they were scheduled to become town by May 2016. So you tell me only three would go ahead.
Yes, we'll go ahead with 3. We're putting Madia on hold for now.
Why?
Because of, as I said, we have other challenges because it is something very new to the region. It is not that we're going to leave them out, they're going to come on board a little later. But because there was never no NDCs as per se, to have an overseer, to have and these councillors that falls under NDC, there was never any in Region 8. It was strictly RDC. They were governed by RDC.
So
Unlike Bartica and Lethem and Mabruma, which already had
the
a
local
neighborhood
government organs
right,
in place. So we're waiting until we could establish them following the elections and then move ahead with it.
Yes, that's what we.
As it relates to the township, and what aspect is the outside of the putting the ensuring that the local government organs are in place? What role is the ministry playing? Because I know that a lot of the works that are taking place in the region has to do with putting the necessary infrastructure in place. So what exactly is the ministry role?
Okay, the ministry role is to ensure, as I said, we are working towards local democracy. We don't want to be the ones to push, to tell them this is what you need. So what the ministry did during their consultative periods, when they went out into these regions, they had needs assessment of these communities that were to become a town. We went into Mabruna, we looked at the services that are already there, what they have and what needs to be improved and what's not there that should be included. So we did that, the ministry did that, our officers went in there to do the needs assessment. And then we injected some of those projects into this year's budget in terms of public infrastructure. Like upgrading those hospitals. Like I said, the living quarters, the roads, for example. We did a lot of work on roads, upgraded the roads in Bartica, in Mabruma, and even in Lethem. So those were some of the things. And we will continue to do that in 2016.
So that brings me to looking ahead to this year and 2020. How do you see your role going ahead, and what are some of the things that you are aiming to push and achieve?
Okay, by 2020, we're hoping that the 10 administrative regions would having all the regions having, not only Region 10, having all their plan of actions for regional development. In the future, we are hoping to have regions that are not only strong but very productive in terms of job creation, in terms of resources, in terms of services being offered to the residents so that they can have a good life, or quality education, quality health services, and a good life for all Guyanese throughout Guyana.
Well, Minister, thank you for joining us, and we hope that we could sit with you again and next time and discuss for the plans and some of your visions and some of your efforts as it relates to building this cohesive community. Thank you.